Ladies, Coach Jerry here. Welcome to this video. Welcome to the last video when it comes to the education inside the challenge or the carb cycling challenge. Most of you have started posted already. That's pretty good. If you're watching this live and you're going to be here, let me know who you are. I'm going to be able to interact directly with you. If you're watching replay, you can come and replay. Remember to post, put in the hashtag carb cycling challenge when it comes to that. And of course, if you have any question about that, feel free to make your own post as well if you don't find the one that we made beforehand, okay? Now I'm going to be sharing my screen today. Hopefully it's not going to be all over the place. There's a lot of things that I want to cover here. It's not going to be super long, but there is a few things I want to cover important when it comes to cheat meals, when it comes to understand what is a cheat meal, when it comes to understand that cheat meal means you basically going overboard your calorie and doesn't mean like there is some good or bad food. I'm going to give you some real applications around nutrition, around how to make easier, how to make this thing easier when it comes to actually be able to choose that. And like we did in our challenge back in Christmas when it was holiday challenge, I'm also going to give you a way to understand, provided that in your opinion, or let's say in facts, you are going overboard your calories a couple of days and you are gaining some weight, to kind of like what to do. And as carb cycling is really for a flexible lifestyle and nutritional approach, but also to make your metabolism flexible again. Okay, so we're going to talk about a few things. Before we do that, I want to share my screen here. And as I share my screen, let me know if you see and everything here. See, Bianca's here, Doris here. Excellent. Let me know how things are going. And of course, I wanted to talk a little bit about Dori, as she, and not all of you were in the challenge. And last when Cecilia was talking, you might not have seen that I announced Dori as being our assistant coach. So for all the posts that you're making inside this group, and also for the posts that you're making when it comes to the challenge, I want you to tag Coach Jennifer and Coach Dori, and of course you can also tag me if you want. But essentially, I want you to tag them. And as I talked the first time about Dori, what I was impressed about Dori as I got her to become the other assistant coach is her extreme detailed ability to actually do the work and to be following direction. And when she was a client, and this was clear to me that not only Dori, you operate on a very different level as a regular person when it comes to be able to critical think around food choices and everything. So that's got her to really change your body like that. And again, in my opinion, whenever you see this happen, you don't necessarily have a lot of things to say or explain why I would choose Dori as the assistant coach here. She's going to work primarily initially with ladies that we know that they need support when it comes to making better food choices, when it comes to create consistency, and especially when it comes to really understand why your changing is important. Because like I said multiple times now in several videos, the person you watch in the mirror in 6 months from now is a person that make decision on a daily basis, like on whether your goal is important and whether it's not important, and the priority, the decision in a moment when you're about to eat food that you know you shouldn't be eating, that comes down to your ability to really feel like your goal is important. Because when we forget why we're doing something for, when we say I'm gonna want to lose weight because I want to be confident in my skin, or I want to have more intimacy with my partner, or I want to be walking around in the beach, or I want to be feeling for the very first time good in my 40s, better than I was in my 20s, that thing comes with a price. That thing comes with you really want this thing day in and day out. That thing doesn't reflect with a person that says that for the whole day and then chooses to eat food that you're not supposed to be eating, right? That's an identity thing. And this, I feel like that was the biggest strength in Tudori. You're here, so if you want to comment about that. But when we talked the first time and when we're talking now, essentially the person that you're becoming inside is much different. And again, that comes with you prioritizing actions when it comes to food choices, and when it comes to consistency, when it comes to actually doing the things that you're supposed to be doing, right? When it comes to do these workouts, not only doing the workouts, but also doing them with intent, with the intent to getting better. And again, this is kind of like just a side note, and I want you to really focus with that. When it comes to also Coach Jennifer, she's also very skilled on that. The biggest thing that I want to say about Coach Jennifer, she's gonna work also primarily with ladies that are struggling with coming out of metabolic adaptation, which is mostly her story. Coming out of like coming in this group with the idea that she had to do more cardio, the better. Realizing that as low as the stress goes, your body releases water. So like every coach has a different story, and me personally, I went through both of them, and obviously with the experience I gained through the years, at this point I'm able also to direct the right people towards the according to what they struggle. Should you be a person that really we have to work very deeply into hormone adaptation, doing testing and stuff like that, you will also primarily work with me directly. Okay, so we'll make this a even more exciting journey. Now, when it comes to this, as I want to talk about this a little bit and kind of like hopefully give you what you need here, there are a few things I want to talk first. Carb cycling challenge is the primary goal of that is for you to create a flexible metabolism, and that for me is a metabolism that goes from being insulin resistant to insulin sensitive for the most part. It is a metabolism that is going to be able to use fuels like carbohydrate glucose towards the metabolism versus using fat and lipiding metabolism. But that doesn't mean that is only primarily goal is to lose weight. It can also be to improve body composition, right? But I want to talk about special population for a second. Special population means like, let's say somebody indeed has a hormonal component like thyroid issue. Then when you have thyroid issue, you need to also be knowing that this is an autoimmune disease. And that means that you would know something about eliminating certain food or food groups for the moment to see how the inflammation goes. When it comes to insulin resistance, we know that it's not about the carb, it's about balancing all the macronutrient in one meal. When it comes to sex hormones or adrenals or PCOS, so when it comes to a lot of hormonal interaction in that sense, we know that it's about decreasing stress, it's about working on a much lower carb range than the rest. So special population is something that still can be included in this challenge, yet it needs to be on a very detailed one-to-one interaction. And this is why what creeps me out for real, what really says, like, it makes me feel like, oh my God, like, are people that dumb, or like is the industry doing such an amazing job of making you believe that it's so simple? We see stuff all the time, like you go online and you look, oh, I have a Hashimoto or thyroid or whatever thing this is as easy as reducing some food, and you have a specific things you need to eat, and then like you're gonna just be fine. It's not that simple. Like if it was that simple, like there wouldn't be no conditions. If it was the simple, like imagine that the obesity is created from the premise that it's a chronic calorie excess. That's obesity. So we know that we should all just reduce calorie, right? Why can we not fix obesity? Because it's not that simple. Even though it's the method is simple, it's not that simple, right? Because we know that calorie in, calorie out works. But when we have a trigger food, much like nuts, for instance, which is quote unquote healthy, and you eat a bunch of nuts, even if it's healthy, it's a lot of calorie, right? So when you don't realize that, that's a problem, right? So we know that it's not that simple. So if you have and you're watching this video here again, and let's say you're new or you work with me, if you work with me, we already do it. But if you're new and you have some sort of condition, comment below metabolic assessment. Every time you come into the group, I actually send you that. It's like, don't be afraid to actually take that stuff. This is like a free service that we actually give to actually showing you what you're supposed to be doing. Because like, if not, I can tell you for sure, you will waste a bunch of time when it comes to find a solution for that. The only thing is going to happen is that you will take longer to actually fix a problem that maybe is fixable. So this is kind of like all I wanted to talk about spatial population. Now I want to talk about the juicy stuff. When we go to, and I'll share my screen right now again, entire screen. Let me know if you're seeing these things. we will go towards this again. And we're talking about our guide, and I want to make sure that you guys should see this. Yes, you are. Putting everything together, okay? So we talk about the first time we talked about this, it was that you saw the frequency is important. If you do a when you do a level 2 kind of approach, you should be really only thinking about tracking. If you're doing level 1 approach, if you're doing intuitive eating, you want to be understanding, more or less how your calorie comes out to, and then choose a split. I find that 3 for most time is 3 4 meals is most people choice is good. You also the what's going to make a difference in this challenge is like if you are over 30% or over 25%, you want to go with a much more aggressive, which is the red, type of thing here. Sorry, never mind. Aggressive is the green, even though this picture I guess is the opposite. But again, it's like you need a lot more lower carb days when you are higher than 25. When you're lower than 25, your metabolism is a lot more adaptable to carbohydrates, and that's what I would do. You need a very much more aggressive when you are over 30%. You need a more aggressive calorie cut than when you are around. As you see here, up to 21%, you can really go to a still aggressive or moderate, right? And conservative only when you are only 10%, 10%, 10 to 20% of fat. So very few people in this group here would go with a conservative. I will go with moderate or aggressive. If you are doing that, great. If you're not, just start posting. The sense is like when you have a lower carb day, you want to be lowering carb the early part of the day, and then on the higher carb on the first part of the day, and lower carb after. And then of course you want to be inserting more carb choices in the first part of the day when you are doing that. When you are a moderate or high carb person. If you are a person much like myself that you struggle with sleep, I would just kind of like do the opposite, maybe a first meal with carb and then no carb on the second meal, and then I would go a little bit higher in carb with the last meal, even if you are on a lower carb day, because we know that that's help a lot with sleeping. Today I want to talk about if I wanted to read this thing about a couple of scenario when it comes to cheat meals. But again, like the interesting part here is that, and I wanted to see if I can share here my the presentation for a second. The one thing that you should do, like the one thing that is universal when it comes to carb cycling is that timing around the carb, which again, you need to factor the timing according to your own preference. If you're a person that don't sleep well, I would eat most of them in the night. If you're a person that sleep well, I would also consider when you work out to hit them around the workout time. And otherwise, a classical approach early in the day and less in the night when it comes to carb and calorie will do much better. You need to be careful of the avoiding carb spillover. That means like we saw a few posts, and remember specifically one on Lamis, that you're supposed to eat 100 carbs or 150 a day, and then you eat 400 grams of carb. That's easily called carb spillover. That even though you're doing a carb cycling, is too many carbs too quickly, and your metabolism is not going to be able to adapt as well. Okay, so this is kind of like one of the things that I wanted to talk about. When it comes to the food, because we know it's all like you see here, it's always going to be a deficit and then kind of like less of a deficit. And again, this is kind of like long term, but the one thing that I wanted to talk to you about is that most people feel like as if there is some sort of good and bad food, right? And we know that we saw it here. I'm just trying to find the slide here. For some reason, I cannot find this slide. I don't know what's going on. What I'm looking is this one. We know that if we ate 150 calories of 2 cookies over time, it produces is the equal as like over time is like 3,000 calories, which is like 10 cheeseburger, which is like 0.5 kilo of fat. So when it comes to nutrition, we lose for a problem in the mind that we don't really factor things. That's the problem. It's not about being good or bad food. You could have chose a banana. It's going to be the same thing. 1 banana every day more than you need. is going to be over time like 10 cheeseburgers. It's going to be the same exact thing. It's not, there is no more value in eating a banana or a cookie. The thing is that bad cheat meals isn't a cheat meal if you don't go overboard your calorie. You could eat a tiramisu every single day, a tiramisu and a pizza every single day, and chances are if you are under 2000 calorie and that's your goal, you probably would do well. And again, there is no good or bad food in reality, right? What cheat meals really is like, or it's universally known as cheat days, is like people that constantly go overboard. And this is kind of creating the problem. Creates a problem on the metabolism flexibility. It creates a problem on the fact that you're eating more calorie than you should. And that over time doesn't produce the results. Few things that you want to be learning on this is like, and I will do, hopefully I will give you some value today. I found these memes that, as you see here, right, is like this is the same amount of calories, right? The only thing is that one satisfy you for more time, right? So more volume, more, you will need to kind of like use food with more volume. Even this is not even like food with volume. Some of them are volume. But as you see here, it's the same amount of calories, right? So it's called cheat meals, but it isn't really a cheat meal. It's more so like, I don't know, it's like, as you see the same thing here, right? Flexible dieting. This is kind of like what, like I keep talking about the 80 to 20 rule. If you eat 80% the food which are rich in fiber, high in volume, and then you can have 20% of the food that you want, right? This is the premise of flexible dieting. The one thing that I was looking for, and I might not be able to find the binge eating average calorie. Let's see if I find this. It used to be popular. There we go. Okay. So this is what I mean. It's like if you are having a cheat meal for one day that you go over, let's say, 3,500 calorie and your regular calorie day is 1,800, on average, you will be eating 2,000 calories at the end of the week. Your body thinks in weeks, not in days. The problem is that when you have 3-4 cheat meals, like you really go overboard your calories, then you need to be around 1,000 calories just to undo the problem, right? So we know that we said that in the first challenge in the holidays, if you, why everybody get 3, 4, 5 kilo in the holiday? Because on the holiday you have 3, 4, 5 days that you go up to 12,000 calories if you combine the days. That takes 30 days of eating on a deficit of 500 calories for you to not gain weight. Not to lose it, not to gain it. Yeah. So that's why people are so unmotivated. And again, this comes up to like get smart on your goal and finally get committed to your goal. It's fucking crazy. Like people cannot commit to something for 40 days. It's so hard to get out of your comfort zone for 30 days nowadays that you feel like something is not working. The only thing is that you are not working. You cannot commit to something for long enough for you to commit. And this is crazy because it's just a psychology game. It's like you going overboard over time that creates the problem. And again, like just know that it's very hard for you to stay to stay committed to something when you don't see results and motivation wise. And it's very hard for you to do that if you constantly go overboard your calorie. Okay. And when it comes instead to what I wanted to do in this challenge and how do you implement the cheat days? No, and it should never be a cheat days unless you're 10% like Cecilia. You should never have cheat days that you go outside, but you should definitely have cheat meals. And cheat meals is super simple. It's like you are here, and let's say you are here. Let's say you are. Let's make it like I'm not gonna do it this way. This thing is always tough to make it for my. Let's say this is 1,000 calorie, right? Let's say this is 2,000 calorie, and we know that for you to be able to now lose weight in this challenge. Oh, how come I cannot make it small? Okay, yeah, there you go. So you're gonna stay in 1,500 calories, right? So let's pretend this is just 3 days now. You do this, and we created now a 2,000 calorie deficit, right? So we know that you're already at this point, if that's your TDE total, like you're already doing that. The cheat meals, all you really should do, you should not exceed, you should not get completely back there. So if you do a cheat meals, which is included in, let's say, 1,800 calories, that's basically what you do. Like, that's no problem. Okay, let me know if you can see this thing. Can you see this thing? Yeah, you can. Right. So how do you actually implement this in real life? We know that this might be, you might go out for a pizza, right? You might go out for a pizza and a beer or whatever, right? And so it's like, okay, we know that easily you're gonna get to 1,800 calories, if not more, right? So that day, what I would do that particular day, use kind of like what the logic gives us is like, we know that I'm not a big fan of things like fasting or intermittent fasting, but you know that you can use these concepts sometimes. This, let's say that this is like a 15 calorie days, right? We'll use this as a 1,500 calorie, 1,500. So it's like 500 here. 500 here. Oh shit. Come on. Okay. Oh Jesus. Okay. This one, and then here. So this is like a day that should be like you had kind of fairly similar meals, right? It's not that you have to, but that's the idea. So if you know that you're gonna spend, like, you're gonna have maybe like 1,500 calorie in one meal in one sitting, because a pizza, that would be like what happens, right, for a pizza and a beer, and that's being conservative, because in all fairness, it's gonna be more like 2,000 calorie. Then here you should probably have a meal of something like only 200 calorie. And maybe here you can skip. You can actually use a tactical component that you've been sold from so many idiots online that tells you that there is magical in fasting, when you can actually like use that rule for saying, okay, how can I actually stay within 1,800 calories in my day? I can skip the breakfast, or I can potentially have a breakfast, light breakfast, and then skip something until I get to my sitting, right? Of course, that's a big conversation. It's like, are you able to operate during the day when you do that? Because also, if you went overboard and big time, you went overboard, like let's say 2,200 calorie, you can still do that. You can still fix this, if you want to call it, because it's not like you have to fix anything. But you basically, the day after, you might want to stay a little bit lower, right? If you know that you're going to hit that the day before and the day after, maybe you stay a little bit lower. You stay 1,200 calories, okay? You could also potentially do that. It's not a rule, but you could do that. You stay 2,200 calorie in the day, and you stay maybe 1,200 calorie before and the day after. One thing to actually, and this is part of like the, again, logical again, but it's like, how do you not get, let's quote unquote, fat? How do you not gain 3, 4, 5 kilo? How do you not get, like a lot of people get and say, oh, I gained 5 kilo, I didn't know how. Like, you knew, you just didn't pay attention. Like, it's so easy not to do that, right? It's simple. It's like, let's say you're 51 today, and then you go out and have 2 of these days. You're gonna probably be that day after, or 2 days after, you're gonna be 53, right? 53. How can you go back to 51? Super simple. You go on a couple of days, 1,200 calorie. Actually doing that here. 1,200 calorie. I would say you're probably gonna do we're gonna use this again. And I'm gonna use this again. You're gonna do maybe 3, 4 meals, 2 meals, low carb, and then maybe 1 meal, high carb, right? Then you do that for a couple of days. You do that for like a couple of days. It's really a mess, this thing. And then you check on your scale. We know that the scale is not the main component, but your scale is going to probably say something of the nature more of, again, maybe 52 or 51. When you're back to 51, you can just go back to your regular. Then you go back and you implement 3 days of regular of the regular. If you are still wanting to get goals. If you want to start maintaining, then you go back to, maybe you don't go back to 2000 calorie. I would go back to something more so like 1800 calorie, because your new maintenance, like your body will have adapted a little bit. So as you see here, it's not a piece of cake. It's not so simple. It's not just something that you just figure out. It's not something you're meant to figure out. I want this to sink in for real, because I keep seeing this all the time. And I don't get how people want to stay in pain for years and try to figure something out, which is not a joke. This is not easy to figure out. It's definitely something that you can read about it. It's definitely something that if you have super high level experience, you can figure out, but it's not something I suggest, especially when you have an adapted metabolism. For the sake of the challenge, this is really as much as I want to get to into, because reality is that we could be here talking for hours. You would be still back in square one unless you don't practice, unless you don't tag the coaches, unless you don't tag me, unless you don't get a real live application when it comes to the optimization of things. This is usually how it works. So with this being said, hopefully this was helpful. This is how you implement a cheat meals, which is not really a cheat if you don't go overboard your calorie. A cheat meal could be a 6-7 bags of broccoli, which nobody's gonna really eat. That's why it's not called cheat meals. But if you go overboard your calorie, it could be a cheat meal. A cheat meal is easily a couple of pizzas if you eat them, because definitely gonna be. But it's never a cheat meal if you undo those things a couple of days after. You need to become very mindful about your about everything else. Yeah, I see here again. I'm not seeing who is commenting this, but what about calorie burn in exercise? That's a good point. Of course, if you when we're talking about deficit, it's not deficit about food; it's deficit about food and exercise. So again, but for the sake of the exercise and cardio and the thing we talked about the other day, you're not gonna undo a bad diet. In other words, you're not, if you just do, let's say, couple of 6 runs a week, 20 kilometers a week, yeah, you burn a shit tons of calories. But if you don't lose weight, is because, and you don't lose weight and you don't see a better body composition inside your body, that means that cardio is not the way to go. That means that your body has lost the ability to compensate anyway. So you do need to do some work both hands on the stress relief part, on the less burning, more so of a better engine, kind of like a better system inside the body. Probably do some more work on getting stronger and getting leaner when it comes to exercise, when it comes inside the gym. And then, of course, yeah, some work also on the nutrition component. Calorie will always come first. The quality of food is important, though, especially when the much as you age, components of the calorie will be very important as well. Hopefully, this is what you need to hear so far. If you have questions, of course, you can just say more question. But for the rest, keep posting. And now it's time to practice when it comes to the challenge. All the best, and I talk to you soon.